You ever feel like you're just paddling upstream in a hurricane? Like the world's spinning faster than you can keep up,
Yeah.
leaving you feeling lost and maybe, I don't know, a little powerless?
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of being overwhelmed, it's so common today, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's like we're constantly bombarded with information demands.
Exactly. So the idea of finding some kind of inner guidance, a stable point in that storm, that's incredibly appealing.
Absolutely. And that's precisely what we're diving into today. We're exploring the power of intention, drawing on the really profound insights of Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Right.
Now, when we say intention, we're not talking about just like crossing your fingers and hoping for the best.
No, no, it's important to distinguish this. It's not mere positive thinking or wishful thinking. Dyer isn't suggesting we just conjure desires out of thin air.
So what is he suggesting then?
He's pointing to something much more fundamental, a pre-existing field of energy, you could say, an
Okay.
underlying intelligence that actually shapes reality.
Okay, a field of energy. That's the core idea.
That's the core, yeah.
And our goal in this deep dive is to really unpack Dyer's wisdom here, see how these principles can maybe offer us that grounding, that clarity, and even a sense of inner healing amidst all the chaos of modern life.
Finding those practical takeaways, those shifts in perspective you can actually use.
Exactly. Okay, so Dyer apparently starts with a quote from Carlos Castaneda that really set him on this path. It goes, "Intent is a force that exists in the universe. When sorcerers, those who live of the source, beckon intent, it comes to them and sets up the path for attainment." What was it about that quote that struck Dyer?
Well, what's fascinating is Dyer's realization from this, that intention isn't something we generate. It's not something we do through our own willpower.
Yeah.
It's more like a fundamental energy that already exists, like the electricity in the wall. It's just there. We just have to learn how to plug into it.
That's a great analogy. So it's not about making intention happen, but aligning ourselves with it.
Precisely.
He uses this really lovely image of an acorn and an apple blossom to illustrate this. Can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, think about it. An acorn doesn't try to become an oak tree, does it?
No, it just does.
Right. The blueprint, the intention, it's already within it. And similarly, an apple blossom inherently contains the intention to become an apple. This unfolding happens naturally. There's no struggle, no doubt.
It's just the guiding force from the get-go.
Exactly, that inherent direction, that built-in purpose.
And Dyer then brings in some, well, pretty thought-provoking scientific concepts that seem to kind of support this idea of a universal field of intention.
He does. He touches on David Bohm's idea of an implicate order,
Okay.
which is this concept of an underlying, undivided wholeness from which our reality sort of emerges, like a hidden stream influencing everything we see.
Hmm.
And he also references Lynn McTaggart's work in The Field, which explores scientific evidence suggesting a connected energy field that influences our world.
So these scientific perspectives kind of align with Dyer's view. Intention is this fundamental, ever-present force.
They seem to point in a similar direction, yeah.
So here's the big question then. If this field of intention is everywhere, like Dyer says, there is no place that it's not, why do we so often feel cut off from it? Why feel powerless?
That is the key question, isn't it? Dyer suggests that our feeling of separation often comes from the dominance of our ego.
Ah, the ego again.
Right. That part of us that craves control, sees itself as separate from everything else, and also the limiting beliefs we've picked up throughout our lives.
So those act like static, obscuring the signal.
That's a good way to put it. They obscure our connection to this inherent force. We can definitely dig into how to quiet that static later on.
Okay, good. So how do we tune into that signal then? How do we actively connect with this field of intention? Dyer talks about activating intention as rejoining our source, becoming a modern-day sorcerer. What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, by modern day sorcerer, Dyer doesn't mean, casting spells.
Right, okay.
He simply means consciously raising our level of awareness, moving beyond the limitations of our everyday ego-driven thoughts and tapping into a deeper, more intuitive understanding.
So reconnecting with our inner wisdom.
Exactly, allowing that inner wisdom to guide us towards what we truly desire,
Oh.
what's aligned with that larger source.
He also introduces this really fascinating concept of silent knowledge. Can you explain that? It sounds intriguing.
Silent knowledge. It's that feeling of knowing something deep down intuitively without needing external proof or logical explanation.
Like a gut feeling.
Like a gut feeling dialed way up. It's that deep, unwavering certainty that can guide your most powerful intentions, often operating beneath the surface of conscious thought.
Okay.
Dyer tells this powerful story about being in the surf in Maui. There was a woman who seemed to be in distress, but he had this profound sense of peace, this deep knowing that everything was actually okay, unfolding as it should.
Wow. So it's that inner compass pointing us towards our true path,
Yeah.
even when things look chaotic on the surface.
Precisely. It's about trusting that inner voice, that deep knowing.
And Dyer offers a really helpful image for how to cultivate this trust, this surrender. It's the idea of holding on to the trolley strap. I found that so relatable.
Yeah, the trolley strap analogy is great. It beautifully illustrates the act of surrendering to intention.
How so?
Imagine a child on an old-fashioned trolley car. They just hold onto the strap, right? They trust the trolley will take them where they need to go. They aren't trying to steer it.
Right, they just trust the ride.
Exactly. Dyer suggests we can adopt a similar approach to life. Relax our grip on the need for constant control, trust the inherent power of intention, and allow ourselves to be carried toward our goals, just like that acorn is carried toward becoming an oak.
It's about letting go of micromanaging everything, trusting the process. That takes practice, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. It's a shift away from ego-driven effort.
Okay, now Dyer then gets into what he calls the 7 faces of intention, inspired by a Voltaire quote. Can you give us a quick overview of these 7 attributes? What are they?
Sure. Dyer proposes that this field of intention isn't just one thing, but it expresses itself through 7 core qualities, or faces, that reflect the nature of the source, the universal mind.
Okay.
And these are creativity, kindness, love, beauty, expansion, abundance, and receptivity.
Creativity, kindness, love, beauty, expansion, abundance, receptivity. Got it.
And understanding these, and maybe more importantly, embodying these qualities, helps us consciously align with intention.
Okay, let's explore each of those a bit. First up, creativity. How does the universe demonstrate creativity, according to Dyer? And how can we tap into that ourselves?
Well, Dyer emphasizes that the universe is just in this constant state of creation and evolution, isn't it?
Yeah, you see it everywhere.
Stars being born, seasons changing, life unfolding. It's a continuous creative process. He suggests that when we engage our own creativity, whatever that looks like for us, art, music, problem solving, anything we resonate with, this fundamental aspect of intention.
So we become active participants in that creative flow.
Exactly. We align with the creative force of the universe itself.
Okay. Next is kindness. Dyer talks about some surprisingly potent effects of kindness. What's going on there?
Yeah, this is really remarkable, the tangible impact of kindness. Research, as Dyer points out, suggests that acts of kindness actually release feel-good chemicals like serotonin in our brains.
For the giver,
To the giver, the receiver, and even anyone who just witnesses the act.
Wow, a triple win.
It's like a positive ripple effect. Think about a time someone showed you unexpected kindness, it sticks with you, right?
Totally.
So Dyer encourages us to actively cultivate kindness in our daily interactions because it strengthens our connection to the loving nature of intention. Kindness becomes like a powerful amplifier.
Those small acts really do have a big impact then. Okay, the third phase is love. How does Dyer define love in this context, within this framework of intention?
Dyer sees love as the absolute essence of intention. It's the fundamental life force animating the entire universe. He quotes Emerson saying, "Love is our highest word and the synonym for God."
That's powerful.
So when we are in harmony with love through compassion, forgiveness, understanding our ability to activate intention is naturally strengthened.
And the opposite is true too.
Yes, negative emotions like judgment, fear, anger, they create resistance, disharmony. So he really emphasizes being love in our thoughts, words, actions, even towards people we find challenging.
That's the hard part sometimes, embodying that loving vibration consistently. Okay, fourth phase, beauty. This one might seem a bit more subjective, perhaps.
It can seem that way, but Dyer presents beauty as an inherent quality of the source, deeply intertwined with truth. It's not just about, pretty pictures. It's about recognizing the underlying harmony and perfection in all things. He tells a story about his teacher, Guru Mai, appreciating some flowers that others thought were ugly.
Ah, so it's about shifting perception.
Exactly. It highlights that beauty is often a matter of perspective, of seeing beyond the surface. By consciously looking for and appreciating beauty in nature, in people, and experiences, we align ourselves with this perspective intention.
Training ourselves to see beauty everywhere, even in the ordinary. Okay, fifth phase, expansion. What does that mean in the context of intention?
Expansion, according to Dyer, is simply the natural inclination of intention, of life itself, to grow, to increase, to evolve. It applies to all aspects of life.
Like nature always growing.
Precisely. It's the universe's inherent drive towards more. towards greater realization of potential. So by aligning with this expansive nature ourselves, by embracing growth, learning new experiences, we allow our own lives to unfold and flourish more fully.
Okay, that makes sense. Continuous progress. The sixth phase is endless abundance. Now, often we think of this just in terms of money, right?
We do, and Dyer really challenges that limited view.
How so?
He emphasizes that the field of intention is one of limitless supply in all areas, not just financial wealth, but opportunities, relationships, health, joy, ideas, everything.
So it's much broader.
Much broader. He contrasts a mindset of scarcity, of lack, with the intention to attract unlimited abundance. It's about shifting our focus from what we think is missing to the vast potential that actually surrounds us and trusting in that inherent abundance of the source.
It's a fundamental shift from focusing on lack to seeing possibility everywhere.
Okay.
Okay. And finally, the seventh phase is receptivity. What's that about?
Receptivity. Dyer explains that the universe, the field of intention, is constantly offering, constantly saying yes to our genuine intentions, especially those aligned with these phases.
The universe says yes.
Fundamentally, yes. Our role, then, is to become more receptive, to open ourselves up to receive the good that is already flowing towards us. This also involves being less resistant to others' ideas and possibilities, maybe avoiding limiting them with our own knee-jerk no.
Being open.
Right.
Saying yes more often, maybe. Okay, so understanding these seven phases gives us a kind of roadmap for aligning with intention. Now, Dyer makes a really crucial distinction between willpower and imagination. Why is imagination more effective here?
Ah, yes, this is such a key insight. Dyer argues that intention isn't about forcing our will through sheer effort, which is often driven by the ego.
Right, muscling through.
Exactly. And that kind of forceful approach can actually create resistance counterintuitively. Instead, he emphasizes the power of imagination. He sees imagination as our direct link to the universal mind, the realm of pure potentiality where everything originates.
Our link to the source?
Yes. He quotes William Blake, highlighting the transformative power of the human imagination to shape our reality. You could almost say your imagination is the language that intention understands best.
The language of intention. I like that. The firewalk example he uses is such a vivid illustration of this, isn't it? How imagination can override what we think is physically possible.
Oh, absolutely. The firewalk is a dramatic demonstration. It shows how a deeply held belief, fueled by a powerful image in the mind, maybe seeing oneself as protected, walking on cool moss, whatever the image is, can allow people to walk unharmed across burning coals.
Which seems impossible rationally.
Right. It highlights how our limiting beliefs, often rooted in the ego's need for control and its sense of separation, can be transcended when we tap into the creative power of our imagination and connect with that deeper sense of trust.
So the ego is a major roadblock then. If our ego is holding us back, what are some of the other key obstacles that Dyer identifies? The things that prevent us from connecting with intention. He flags three main areas, right?
Yes, he highlights three primary obstacles: our own limiting thoughts, our personal energy levels, and our sense of self-importance, which is very closely linked to the ego.
Okay, let's delve into those. First, our thoughts. How do our thoughts create barriers to intention?
Well, Dyer really emphasizes the critical importance of becoming aware of our inner dialogue. What are we telling ourselves all day? If our thoughts are constantly focused on worry, doubt, lack, past failures, we create a vibrational mismatch with the positive, expansive energy of intention.
A mismatch.
Yeah, it's like trying to tune into a beautiful classical music station while your radio is just blasting static. The key is to consciously shift our focus, move it away from what we don't want or what's missing, and towards what we do intend to create and experience.
It's that principle again.
Yeah.
What you focus on expands. Okay. The second obstacle is our energy. This is a really fascinating aspect to consider in relation to intention.
It really is. Dyer explains that everything in the universe vibrates at a specific frequency, and higher frequencies have a greater capacity to transform lower frequencies.
Okay.
Our thoughts and emotions carry their own energetic signatures. He references the work of Dr. David Hawkins, his scale of consciousness.
Right, I've heard of that. Power versus force.
Exactly, illustrating how emotions like love, joy, peace vibrate at much higher frequencies than, say, fear, anger, or shame. Lower energy states weaken our connection to the high vibrational field of intention. We're just not on the same wavelength.
So how do we raise our vibration then? Dyer offers a kind of mini program for raising our energy, doesn't he? What are some of those key steps?
Yes, he provides some really actionable strategies. Things like, first, becoming consciously aware of our thoughts, like we just discussed, and actively choosing more positive, empowering ones.
Okay.
Making meditation a regular practice, even for short periods, to consciously connect with our inner source, that quiet space within.
That makes sense.
Also being mindful of the low vibrational content we consume, like, excessive negative news or cynical entertainment, surrounding ourselves with uplifting images, sounds, environments, and intentionally engaging in acts of kindness, which we know boosts positive energy.
Those are all really tangible things we can do to shift our internal state.
Yeah.
Great. The third major obstacle, self-importance or the ego. How does our ego hinder our connection to intention specifically?
Well, the ego thrives on separation, doesn't it?
Mm,
It needs to feel distinct, often superior. It fuels itself with judgment, comparison, the need for external validation. This constant sense of being a limited, separate self creates a barrier. It stops us from recognizing our inherent connection to the universal field of intention, to everyone and everything else.
So it keeps us feeling small and cut off.
Exactly. And Dyer outlines 7 really powerful steps for kind of loosening the ego's grip. Things like stop being offended so easily, release the need to always win, let go of the need to be right all the time.
Ooh, those are big ones.
They are. Release the need to feel superior, release the constant need to have more, release the need to identify ourselves solely with our achievements, and finally, release the attachment to our reputation, what others think.
Wow. Letting go of all those egoic attachments sounds incredibly freeing. Hard work, but freeing, and essential, it seems, if we're aligning with intention.
Absolutely essential.
Now, Dyer also talks about something called living on the active side of infinity. That sounds pretty profound. What's the essence of that idea?
It does sound profound, and it is. Dyer, drawing inspiration from thinkers like Joseph Campbell, reminds us that eternity isn't something that happens later after we die. It's not in the future.
No. Eternity is the reality of this present moment. Now, he emphasizes that we are, at our core, infinite spiritual beings having a temporary human experience.
Not the other way around.
Not the other way around, which is how we usually think of it.
Mm.
And fear, especially the fear of death, keeps us clinging to a limited, finite perspective. It disconnects us from realizing our infinite nature right now.
He talks about the illusion of separation created by space and time. How does understanding that help us connect with this idea of infinity?
Recognizing that space and time are, in a sense, constructs of our physical reality, the things that create the feeling of separation from everything else, including our infinite source, allows us to begin to dissolve those perceived boundaries in our minds.
So we can connect beyond those limits.
Yes. Dyer encourages us to make our appointment with infinity now while we're alive, to consciously connect with our eternal, unlimited nature and move beyond the fear of death that holds so many people captive. It's a really radical shift in how we perceive ourselves and our place in the universe. And living on this active side of infinity, as he calls it, must have practical implications for how we approach our lives day to day.
No, absolutely. It means consciously aligning our intentions with the expansive flow of the universe, with those 7 faces we talked about. Acting with purpose, with a deep knowing that there are ultimately no limitations, only those we impose on ourselves.
Okay.
Dyer emphasizes the power of gratitude here. Feeling genuinely grateful acts like a magnet, attracting more of what we desire, more of the good. He encourages us to think beyond perceived limits, to act as if our intentions are already manifesting.
Act as if.
Yes. And he also speaks of enthusiasm. He loves the root of that word, antheos, meaning God within. Enthusiasm is that vibrant passion, that energy that naturally arises when our actions are in harmony with the faces of intention, when we're creative, kind, loving, appreciating beauty, expanding, feeling abundant, and being receptive.
That feeling of passion as an inner compass, guided by the source within. That's a powerful image. Okay, so Dyer's book then delves into specific intentions for cultivating different aspects of our lives, things directly related to that grounding, clarity, and healing we mentioned at the start. Let's touch on a few of those key ones. First, respecting ourselves at all times. Why is this so fundamental?
It's fundamental because, as Dyer firmly believes, we originated from that universal field of intention. We are therefore inherently divine creations, worthy of absolute respect.
So lack of self-respect is like denying our origin.
Exactly. It creates a fundamental block in the flow of that creative, life-affirming energy within us. He encourages us to regularly affirm our inherent worthiness. Maybe use a simple statement like, I am whole and perfect as I was created. And to approach the world and ourselves from that foundation of self-love and self-respect.
That simple affirmation, I am whole and perfect as I was created, could be really transformative if practiced.
Okay. Another key intention Dyer discusses is living our life on purpose. How do we figure out what our purpose is and align with it?
Well, interestingly, Dyer suggests our true purpose isn't necessarily something we have to go out and find, like searching for a lost object. It's
Um,
more something that emerges naturally when we align ourselves with the field of intention. It involves tuning into that silent knowing we talked about earlier.
Listening inwards.
Yes, following our passions, what genuinely brings us joy and makes us feel alive, and importantly, shifting our primary focus from just personal gain to giving, to being of service to others in some way.
Mm.
He shares a lovely story about his daughter, Sky, pursuing her musical passions as an example of trusting this inner guidance.
So it's about listening to that inner calling, trusting it, and focusing on contribution. Okay. Dyer also stresses the importance of being authentic and peaceful, particularly in our closest relationships, like family. That can be tricky territory. It certainly can be. He reminds us that our relationships, even the most challenging ones, fundamentally exist as patterns of thought within our own minds.
That's thoughts.
Yes, how we perceive them, the stories we tell ourselves about them. He encourages us to intentionally send thoughts of peace and well-being to all our relatives, regardless of past conflicts or current difficulties.
Intend peace for them, even if things are strained.
Exactly. The key, he says, is to try and respond to lower energy. Maybe anger, resentment, criticism coming from them with higher energy from our side. With love, understanding, forgiveness, basically reflecting the core nature of intention itself. He shares an inspiring example of his teacher, Baba Muktananda, who apparently made it a practice to see only light in everyone he encountered.
Wow, seeing only the light. That's a profound shift in perspective to aim for. Okay, Dyer also addresses how to cultivate feelings of success and attract abundance. We touched on abundance earlier, but what are some key insights for actually feeling successful and attracting it?
Here, Dyer really emphasizes what he calls the art of allowing.
The art of allowing.
Yes. It's about removing our internal resistance, our doubts, fears, scarcity thoughts, to the natural, constant flow of abundance from the universal mind, from the source. He points out that negative emotions are actually useful signals.
How so?
They indicate a disconnect from intention, from our source, while positive emotions, joy, peace, love, gratitude, signal alignment.
So, feel good to attract good.
In essence, yes. He encourages us to focus on cultivating abundant feelings. First, abundant happiness, health, strong relationships, a sense of security. He believes these are the pathways that naturally open us up to attracting financial abundance too. And practices like generosity, giving freely, and meditation help us stay aligned with the source of all abundance.
It's about focusing on the feeling abundance in all areas, not just chasing the money.
Okay.
Another crucial intention is cultivating a state of being stress-free and tranquil. Given modern life, how can we achieve that inner peace?
Dyer reminds us, first off, that our natural state is one of joy and peace. Stress, he says, is a form of resistance. It arises when we resist the natural flow of life, when we fight against what is.
So stress is resistance.
Yes. And he offers a simple but incredibly powerful tool, what he calls the 5 magic words.
Okay, what are they?
I want to feel good.
I want to feel good. That's it.
That's it. He encourages us to make that our conscious intention, and then to choose our thoughts based on how they make us feel. If a thought feels bad, stressful, anxious, gently choose a different one that feels better. Aligning ourselves with those 7 faces of intention, creativity, kindness, love, etc., automatically leads us towards inner tranquility. And he shares that humorous but vital anecdote about rule number 6.
Oh, yeah?
Don't take yourself so goddamn seriously.
That's a great reminder. We all need that one sometimes. Lighten up a bit. Okay, Dyer also discusses how to attract ideal people and divine relationships. What's the secret there, according to him?
Well, similar to abundance, Dyer explains that we attract people into our lives based on our own energetic vibration. Like attracts like.
Our energy draws people in.
Exactly. So the key is to release any internal resistance we might have to attracting the kind of people we truly desire, loving, supportive, inspiring people. We need to consciously shift our inner dialogue to reflect the expectation that these ideal connections are on their way or even already here.
Expect them to arrive.
Yes. He shares a personal story about helping a distraught editor, really embodying the supportive energy he wanted to see more of. He stresses that true relationships, divine relationships, honor our highest selves, our connection to source. And again, detachment from specific outcomes is important. Just hold the intention, align your energy, maybe use practices like meditation, like japa, to tune your frequency.
So it's about becoming a vibrational match for the relationships we seek and letting go of controlling how they appear.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, Dyer delves into optimizing our capacity to heal and be healed. This is obviously something many people are deeply interested in. What's his perspective?
His perspective on healing is really empowering. He emphasizes that healing is fundamentally about reconnecting with our original state of perfect health and well-being.
Our inherent state.
Yes, our inherent nature as beings who originated from the flawless field of intention. Healing involves becoming aware of and then releasing any thoughts, beliefs, or behaviors that create resistance to this natural flow of healing energy.
Things that block the healing.
Exactly. He shares stories of individuals who've overcome significant health challenges, seemingly against the odds, by aligning with intention. And he presents research findings suggesting the powerful role intention can play in healing, both for ourselves and even collectively.
Wow, collective healing too.
Yes, the idea that our focused intentions can influence others' well-being. His core advice is to consciously shift our focus away from thoughts of sickness, symptoms, and limitations, and towards intentions of wellness, vitality, and perfection. And again, meditation is highlighted as a key practice for connecting with that inner healing source. He tells a really moving story about a woman named Darby Hebert, who experienced profound healing through connecting with nature, silence, and meditation.
That message of our innate capacity for healing, accessible through intention, is truly hopeful and empowering. And the last specific intention Dyer touches on is appreciating and expressing the genius that you are. What does he mean by genius here?
He's not talking about IQ scores or conventional definitions. Dyer explains that genius, in this context, means reclaiming our inherent capacity for original thought, for seeing things in new ways. It involves shifting our thinking, letting go of the limiting labels and stereotypes that we and others have imposed on ourselves.
Breaking free from labels.
Yes, perceiving the world and ourselves in fresh, unhabitual ways. He encourages us to affirm our own inherent brilliance, our unique spark. And interestingly, he suggests that actively looking for and acknowledging the genius in others helps us recognize it within ourselves.
Seeing it in others helps us see it in ourselves.
Exactly. He also highlights the power of feeling interconnected. People who feel deeply connected to others, he calls them connectors, seem to naturally attract cooperation and positive outcomes more easily.
It's about unlocking our innate potential and recognizing that spark of genius within ourselves and everyone else. Okay, so as we bring this deep dive into the power of intention to a close, what would you say is the most important message, the core takeaway for our listeners?
Well, I think the central message really is that by truly understanding and then consciously aligning ourselves with this fundamental force of intention, this universal field that expresses itself as creativity, kindness, love, beauty, expansion, abundance, receptivity, we can access a profound source of inner strength, clarity, and healing. It's available in every aspect of our lives.
So shifting focus.
Yes. Shifting our primary focus from the perceived limitations of our ego, from what we think is missing or wrong, to the infinite possibilities inherent in our true interconnected nature, our connection to source.
That's beautifully summarized. And I really encourage you, the listener, to take some time to just reflect on how these teachings resonate with your own life. Maybe start experimenting with even just one or two of the practical suggestions we've talked about today. See what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps ask yourself this simple question: what is one small, maybe seemingly insignificant shift in your thinking or your focus or even your daily routine that you could make starting today to begin consciously aligning yourself more fully with this powerful field of intention?
That's a truly thought-provoking question to leave everyone with. We highly recommend exploring Dr. Wayne Dyer's work further if this resonated. Delve deeper into these concepts. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.